The wind howled across the Texas plains, carrying with it the scent of rain, gunpowder, and forgotten dreams. Jack Callahan was a man who wanted nothing but quiet, his cattle, his whiskey, and his ghosts. But that all changed the morning he found a beautiful stranger asleep in his stable, her dress torn, her secrets darker than the storm rolling in. Who was she, and what trouble had followed her to his door? Let's find out.
Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more powerful stories coming every single day, and you don't want to miss them. Now, let's begin.
The sun hadn't yet climbed the ridge when Jack Callahan swung open the stable doors, boots thudding against the packed earth. The air was cool, carrying the scent of horses and dust. Another morning, another chore. Until he saw the shape lying in the straw. At first, he thought it was a stray drifter passed out drunk. But as the light spilled in, he saw pale skin, tangled hair, and a torn blue dress. A woman, young, barefoot. Jack's hand went instinctively to his revolver. "You picked the wrong barn, lady," he muttered. She stirred, groaning softly, eyes blinking open, blue, startling against the dirt on her face. She tried to stand but winced, clutching her side. "Please, don't send me away." Her voice was soft, but laced with fear. Jack studied her, the dried blood on her temple, the trembling in her hands. Not a thief, not quite helpless either. "You hurt?" he asked gruffly. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Just tired. Haven't eaten in 2 days." Jack hesitated, jaw tightening. He'd seen trouble before, and it always wore the same face, pretty and desperate. Still, something in those eyes made him lower his gun. "Fine," he said. "You get 1 meal and 1 hour's rest. Then you tell me who you are and what you're running from." The woman looked up, a flicker of fear and something else in her gaze. "My name's Clara, and if you knew who I was running from, you'd have left me in the dark."
The sun climbed high by the time Jack Callahan set 2 tin plates on the table inside his small ranch house. Clara sat across from him, stiff-backed, eyes darting to the window as if afraid the horizon might chase her down. He studied her over black coffee. "You said your name's Clara? Clara what?" She hesitated, fingers tightening around the spoon. "Dalton." The name sat heavy between them, like a stone dropped in water. Jack couldn't place it, but he knew the sound of money and trouble when he heard it. "You from around here?" he asked. She shook her head. "Far East. Don't matter where." When she finished eating, she stood to thank him, but something slipped from her bag, a folded letter sealed with a red wax crest. Jack caught a glimpse before she snatched it up. A D pressed deep into the wax, dark as dried blood. "Didn't mean to pry," though he had. "But if you're dragging danger across my land, I got a right to know." Clara looked up, eyes flashing. "I didn't drag it here. It's been following me." Outside, the wind shifted, whispering through the cracks in the door. Dust swirled across the floorboards, settling into the shape of her footprints, small, fragile, and out of place in a world built for men like him. Jack rubbed his jaw, uneasy. "You can stay the night," he said finally, "but come morning, we're going into town. Sheriff'll know what to do." Clara's voice broke to a whisper. "No, please, not the sheriff." That fear again, deep, desperate. Jack leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "Lady, just what the hell are you running from?" She looked away. "A man who don't believe I belong to myself."
Morning came sharp and golden over the plains. Jack hitched the wagon while Clara stood beside the corral, her borrowed shawl pulled tight. The horses stamped impatiently, as if they could sense what neither dared to say. "Town's 10 miles," Jack said flatly. "You tell the sheriff whatever truth you've got." She nodded, but her eyes lingered on the horizon, wary. "Truth don't always buy mercy," she murmured. They rode in silence, wheels creaking, wind tugging at her hair. Jack caught her watching every shadow along the trail, every distant rider. Fear had settled in her bones like frost. When Cedar Ridge appeared, a handful of buildings crouched in dust, the townsfolk turned to stare. A woman like her didn't belong among ranch hands and rusted spurs. Whispers followed them to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Amos Carter, gray and deliberate, looked from Jack to Clara, then to the letter Jack handed him. His brow furrowed as he broke the wax seal. Dalton. Now there's a name that carries weight. Clara stiffened. "Please, Sheriff, don't send word east." Carter leaned back, studying her face. "Some men got reach long as a railroad. If this Dalton's the one I think, best keep your head low, miss." He looked at Jack. "Keep her close. Trouble like this don't ride alone." As they stepped back into the sunlight, Jack caught sight of a rider on the ridge, watching, unmoving. When he blinked, the figure was gone. Clara's voice trembled. "He's found me!" Jack's hand brushed the gun at his hip. "Then he'll wish he hadn't."
By the time they rode back from town, dusk had bled across the plains. The air was heavy, restless. Jack led the horses into the corral, but something stopped him cold. Prints in the dirt. Not his, not hers. Bigger, fresher. He crouched low, tracing the outline with his calloused hand. "We had company," he muttered. Clara froze by the porch steps, clutching her shawl. "How many?" "2 horses. Maybe 3, he said. Didn't stay long. His gaze lifted to the hills beyond the ranch. Nothing moved, but the silence pressed in like a held breath. After supper, Jack sat cleaning his revolver at the table, the lamplight flickering over his jaw. Clara hovered by the doorway, uneasy. "If you're thinking to scare me," she said softly, "you won't have to try. I've been scared near my whole life." Jack looked up, eyes sharp. "You told me you were running. Time you said from who?" Her lips trembled. "Edward Dalton, my husband." Jack went still. "The banker?" She nodded, tears glinting. "He's rich, mean, and cruel enough to buy the law. He won't stop until I'm dead or back in his house." Jack's voice dropped low, dangerous. "Then he'll have to ride through me first." Outside, coyotes cried across the darkening plains. Clara stepped closer to the window, her reflection trembling in the glass. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't just running. She was trapped. And Jack Callahan, whether he liked it or not, was trapped with her.
If you're still watching at this point, I know you're hooked. Go to the comments, rate the story out of 10, and tell us your favorite parts so far. Smash that like button and let us know. Now let's continue.
The storm rolled in just after sundown, a growl from the heavens that set the horses restless in their stalls. Jack pulled the barn doors tight while the rain hammered down, drumming against the roof like gunfire. Inside the house, Clara paced by the window, lightning flashing across her face. "I'll leave come morning," she said suddenly. "You've done enough. I won't bring more danger to your door." Jack slammed the door behind him, water dripping from his hat brim. "Ain't no one riding out in this storm." "It's not the storm I'm afraid of," she shouted, voice trembling.
You don't understand. He finds me. You'll die for a woman you don't even know." Jack's jaw tightened. Maybe I don't need to know. Maybe I just don't like bullies. For a heartbeat, only thunder answered. Then the lamp flickered and went out, plunging them into shadows. Another flash of lightning revealed her face, pale, defiant, wet with tears she wouldn't let fall. "I ain't looking for a savior," she said. "And I ain't offering to be one," he growled back. "But you're here now, and I don't abandon what's under my roof." The wind screamed through the cracks as if echoing their anger. She turned away, breathing hard, her shoulders shaking. Jack stared at her silhouette, realizing this fight wasn't just fear. It was pain too deep to name. Outside, thunder broke again, closer this time. Inside, something else cracked. The first spark between them neither could ignore.
By noon the storm had passed, leaving the earth slick and shining under the sun. Jack saddled his horse, muttering that he'd fetched supplies from Cedar Ridge. Clara only nodded, her eyes rimmed red from a night without sleep. Town was quiet when he rode in, the kind of quiet that made a man reach for his gun out of habit. Outside the sheriff's office, a new poster flapped against the notice board, the ink still fresh. Jack's breath caught when he saw the face. Clara. Wanted for theft and murder. Reward, $500. He tore the paper down, the words burning into his mind. Theft he could believe under the right misery. Murder? That was something else. When he returned to the ranch, Clara was hanging laundry in the wind, the sunlight turning her hair to gold. For a moment, he almost forgot the paper crumpled in his fist, but anger had a way of waking fast. "You gonna tell me the truth now?" he asked, his voice sharp enough to cut. She turned, startled. "What do you mean?" He threw the poster at her feet. "You didn't think I'd find out?" Clara stared at it, color draining from her face. "It's a lie," she whispered. "He made it all up. Said I stole from him, said I killed a man who tried to help me. He's using the law to drag me back." Jack's fists clenched. He wanted to believe her. God help him, he already did. But trust was a luxury he'd buried long ago. "Pack your things," he said coldly. "You're leaving by morning." For a long moment, she didn't move. Only the wind did, tugging the poster from the dirt and sending it spiraling into the fading light.
The night came dry and cold, the sky bruised purple above the plains. Jack couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch, rifle resting across his knees, the echo of Clara's words twisting through his head. Inside, her silhouette moved softly by the lantern light, packing what little she owned. Then he heard it. Hooves, distant at first, then closer. He stood, every muscle tensing. "Clara," he called quietly, "get down!" Two riders crested the ridge, dark shapes against the moonlight. They weren't coming to talk. The first shot shattered the stillness, splintering the porch rail beside his hand. Jack dove for cover, returning fire. The horses screamed, thunder rolling across the valley. Clara crouched by the window, trembling but steady. She grabbed the pistol he'd left on the table. "Stay inside," he shouted. A bullet tore through the wall. "Not a chance," she snapped back. The door burst open, one of the bounty men charging in, reeking of sweat and whiskey. Clara fired once, the sound deafening in the small room. The man dropped, his gun clattering to the floor. Outside, Jack wrestled with the second rider, a blur of fists, mud, and fury. When it was over, silence fell, heavy, final. Jack slumped against the barn wall, blood seeping through his shirt.
Clara ran to him, panic flashing in her eyes. "You're hit," she cried. He tried to smile, breath ragged. "Ain't the first time." His gaze found hers, softer now. "Reckon you bought yourself another day." She pressed her trembling hands to his wound, tears mixing with the dirt. For the first time, she didn't think about running.
If you're enjoying this story right now, subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a like. The next days blurred into one long hush of pain and whispers. Jack drifted in and out of fever, muttering half-formed words, while Clara worked to keep him tethered to life. She boiled water, tore strips from her own dress to bind his wounds, and prayed to a God she wasn't sure listened anymore. When he stirred, his voice was hoarse. "You should have run." She wrung out a cloth and pressed it to his brow. "I'm done running," she said softly. "If I leave, you'll die." He gave a weak, crooked grin. "You sure I'm worth saving?" Her eyes met his, tired, steady, full of quiet defiance. "You're the first man who didn't try to own me. That's worth something." Outside, the world held its breath. Only the wind moved, whispering across the fields. She read aloud from an old book she found on his shelf, half-missing pages, smelling of smoke, until his breathing evened out. Each day he grew stronger, and the space between them grew smaller. When she laughed once, really laughed, it startled them both. One evening, he woke to find her asleep beside the bed, head resting against his arm. Her hair brushed his skin, and something deep in him shifted. Not gratitude, not debt, but something gentler, more dangerous. He reached out, brushed a strand from her cheek, and whispered, "Clara." Her eyes opened slowly. "You're awake." "Yeah. And for the first time in years, I don't mind it." Outside, the prairie stretched wide and silent. Holding a promise, neither dared speak. Cedar Ridge hadn't seen a carriage like it in years. Black as coal, wheels trimmed with silver, horses sleek and restless. When it stopped before the sheriff's office, the townsfolk scattered like tumbleweeds in the wind. Edward Dalton stepped down, boots shining, a polished cane in hand. His smile was the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "Sheriff Carter," he drawled smoothly, "I've come for what's mine." Carter's jaw worked slow. "You talking about your wife?" Dalton's expression hardened just enough to show the truth beneath the charm. "The very one. She's a fragile thing, Sheriff. Lost her way out here among savages. I'm simply here to bring her home." Carter leaned back in his chair. "Funny thing," he said, "fragile women don't usually ride halfway across the frontier on their own." Dalton's smile didn't falter. "You'll find the law is on my side. Best you hand her over before someone gets hurt." When he left, the sheriff watched the dust settle where the carriage had been. He knew men like Dalton, ones who hid rot behind their fine suits. That evening, Carter saddled his horse and rode hard for the Double C Ranch. He found Jack splitting firewood, the steady rhythm breaking when he saw the sheriff's face. "Dalton's in town," Carter said quietly. "Brought men with him, mean ones." Clara stepped into the doorway, pale, trembling. Jack dropped the axe. "Then I reckon it's time this bastard learned he can't take what ain't his." Out on the horizon, thunder rolled again, but it wasn't the kind that came from the sky.
The air felt wrong that morning. Too still, too quiet. Even the horses sensed it, stamping nervously in their stalls. Jack stood by the fence, shotgun in hand, watching the dust cloud rise on the horizon. "They're comin'," he said. Clara stepped beside him, her face pale but steady. "Then we finish this." Moments later, Edward Dalton rode into view, flanked by 4 armed men. He dismounted with the calm of a man who believed he already owned the world. "Jack Callahan," he said smoothly, "you've got something of mine." Jack's grip tightened. "She ain't yours, not anymore." Dalton smiled coldly. "Everything I pay for is mine." The standoff stretched thin as wire. Then chaos. A gunshot cracked the silence, and the ranch exploded into flurry. Jack fired first, dropping one of Dalton's men. Bullets tore through the dust, splintering fence posts and shattering glass. Clara ducked behind the wagon, heart hammering, until she saw Jack stumble, blood blooming across his shoulder. "No!" she screamed, grabbing his fallen revolver. Dalton's last man advanced on her, grinning. She aimed, hands trembling, and fired. He fell before he could raise his gun. When the smoke cleared, Dalton lay wounded in the dirt, clutching his side. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "You'll die out here, both of you." Clara walked to him, her voice low but steel hard. "No, Edward, I'll live." Behind her, Jack struggled to his feet, his gaze soft despite the pain. "Reckon we both will." The wind carried the gunpowder away, leaving only silence, and the start of something neither of them could deny.
Smoke still clung to the air as dawn crept across the valley. The gunfire had stopped, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the thunder that came before. Jack lay near the barn, pale and still, blood soaking the dirt beneath him. Clara pressed her hands to his wound, whispering his name like a prayer. "Don't you leave me now, not after everything." His eyes fluttered open, a weak grin ghosting his lips. "Told you, I'm too stubborn to die." She let out a shaky laugh, tears spilling freely. "You fool," she whispered. "You should have let me go." Jack winced, reaching for her hand. "I ain't never been good at letting go." His voice roughened. "Not since I found you in that stable." She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, trembling. "I thought love was something meant to break me, but you made me feel safe." Footsteps crunched nearby. Sheriff Carter. He looked at the bodies, then at Dalton's still form sprawled in the dirt. "Looks like justice done itself," he said quietly. Clara's eyes stayed on Jack. "Will they come for us?" The sheriff shook his head. "Not anymore. The law's clear now. You're free, Mrs. Dalton, or whatever name you aim to go by." Jack's grip tightened on her fingers. "She ain't Mrs. Dalton no more." Carter nodded once and left them in the rising light. Clara leaned closer, her forehead against Jack's. "You should rest," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Reckon I will, long as you're here when I wake."
Weeks passed, and the land healed with them. The scars of gunfire faded beneath new grass, and the smell of smoke gave way to spring rain. Jack moved slower now, his shoulders stiff but mending. He spent his mornings walking the fence line, his hat pulled low, watching the sky stretch wide and endless. Inside the barn, Clara brushed Dusty, Jack's old gelding, humming softly to herself. Her hair caught the sunlight spilling through the slats, gold against the dust. For the first time in her life, she wasn't looking over her shoulder. Jack leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. "Never thought I'd find peace in my own damn barn," he said, a hint of a smile tugging at his mouth. Clara turned, teasing, "Maybe it's the company." He stepped closer, the familiar creak of his boots echoing off the walls. "That so?" She nodded. "This place saved me. You saved me." Jack looked at her, the woman who'd once been a stranger in the straw. "Reckon you did some savin' yourself," he said quietly. "Brought something back I thought was gone." She tilted her head, smiling. "What's that?" "Hope." For a long moment, the world seemed to still. Just the soft rustle of hay and the steady rhythm of two hearts learning to beat in time. Outside, the wind carried the last of winter away. Inside, Jack reached for her hand. "You stayin', Clara?" he asked. Her smile deepened, eyes bright. "I already am." He tipped his hat, that quiet grin breaking through. "Then welcome home, darlin'."
They said a cowboy once found a woman sleeping in his stable, and in saving her, he saved himself. Now, when the wind rolls over the plains, folks swear they can still hear laughter drifting from the Double C Ranch. Thank you for watching till the end. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. We'll be dropping brand new, powerful stories every single day. See you on the next one.